Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hello everyone, and welcome to Work in Progress, the Personal Productivity Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I am your host, Joanna. Let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode on Work in Progress, our personal productivity podcast. I'm your host, Joanna, and today, this holiday season, we are bringing you a New Year's special. So I'm super excited to be joined by one of our hosts, Marie, to chat about Resolute beginnings. Now, I know New Year's resolutions can be a topic of contention and everyone's got their own opinions about it. We either hate them or we love them. But today, hopefully our goal is to try and help you create a roadmap to your best year yet. So, hi Marie.
Hi.
How are you today?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's so good to have you back on.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It has. I actually think that it was in July
I believe so.
that we last had our little recording and we talked about toxic relationships, I believe.
Oh, that was fun.
That was very fun. I did love it. We were very real. So hopefully we can bring the same energy today.
To goals.
To goals. Yeah, we love goals. Love goal setting. My favorite thing. Awesome. So, as you know, we've got our Have You Met Marie section, but I've spiced it up a little bit today. So we're not going to be asking the normal questions. We've got a few different ones.
Thank you.
So my first one for you is, what is your favorite cuisine?
This is really hard because I eat almost anything. Like I will eat really just anything. But if I could pick like top three, because it's hard to pick like just one.
Yeah.
It's got to be Chinese, Italian, and I reckon Spanish.
Ooh, I feel like I don't have that much Spanish food. Like, I would have to intentionally go to a place that serves Spanish food.
Yeah, I think I just really love how Spanish food has a lot of like acid with the fats, and I love that combination so much because the acid cuts a lot of fat. Like, oh, well, the one thing that I love is, so this isn't really Spanish, but it's like in the realm. In Argentina, they have this hot dog called choripan, and it's essentially just like chorizo in a hot dog bun with chimichurri and salsa criolla. And I really love that like acidic with the fats, which is something that I don't get enough from regular hot dogs. So I really love that.
That sounds really good. Well, my palate is not as refined as yours, as you could tell by the fact we were talking about Happy Meals before.
Oh, come on. Happy Meals are great.
Well, we were saying I just want the apple slices. I'm a simple gal. Just want the little things.
It is so much easier to be simple.
Yeah.
I wish I was more simple.
No, I wish I knew half the words you were saying when you were talking about that. Like, you were talking about a salsa and I was like, oh my God, words, but it sounds so cool.
Like, it's just really extravagant sometimes.
Yeah.
And I wish I was a little less extravagant, but I am who I am.
Well, I feel like in Melbourne it's good to be extravagant because there's so many different food options.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It makes exploring food really, really fun.
Yeah. And before you were giving me a recommendation on a cafe and you were like, it's not too extravagant because it's hard to find things here that are not extravagant.
Yeah. I do love simple things too.
Yeah.
It's just hard to find in Melbourne, I feel like.
Yeah. No, I do love like cool little spots. I've gotten used to the extravagance. That's why I crave some McDonald's apple slices.
I do crave Macca's from time to time. Yeah. Like there's a time for Macca's. It's going to be a time.
Yeah, definitely. Can agree. Cool. So next one is, if you could travel to one place that you haven't been before, where would it be?
Greece.
Greece.
100% Greece.
Yeah.
And everyone's gonna be like, oh, Mykonos or like
Yeah.
Santorini or something like that. But I really, really want to go to Athens because of all the like history and the culture, and I think the architecture is just amazing. So that's somewhere I really want to go.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's a beautiful
Yeah.
place.
Where's somewhere you want to go?
Oh wow, the tables have turned. One place I want to go, like Morocco,
Sounds really
for
fun.
like the colors and the food. I feel like that would be a really cool
that's
place
definitely
to go.
my bucket list too.
Yeah, lots of places, but like they're so like niche, and I would have to literally travel the world to kind of get to all of them
100%. Yeah,
they're so random. But yeah. Anyways, music. I'm going to ask you what your favorite song is by Taylor Swift, because I know you love Taylor Swift.
I think really hard again.
Top three.
Top 3, The Lakes from Folklore Deluxe, if I'm not wrong. The Lakes. It's just the most beautiful love song ever. Just wanting to go away to the lakes because you don't feel like you belong in regular civilization. Where the lakes where all of the poets went to, write in solitude. It just sounds very calming, albeit a little bit boring, but boring sometimes is good.
Yeah.
And the view, I don't know how anyone would get tired of the view. And then I think Cowboy Like Me from Evermore, which is another very heartbreaking love song. I love heartbreak. I just feel like it drives you sometimes. It drives you to learn things about yourself. So I feel like heartbreak is underrated. Cowboy Like Me. And the third one has got to be, I think it's got to be, this is hard. This is really hard. Didn't really think this one through. I'm gonna say Right Where You Left Me or Dear Rita from Midnights.
Okay.
Yeah, Right Where You Left Me from Evermore, which is another song about surprise, heartbreak.
Yeah.
But that woman does it so well. Heartbreaking songs. She writes them so well.
She does.
So that's not my fault. That's actually hers. Yeah. That's my answer.
Love that. I've actually never heard of those Taylor Swift songs. I need to catch up because I'm going to Taylor Swift next year.
Yes, with me.
With you. Yes, so exciting. And I will be very embarrassed if I don't know at least 80% of the songs.
I'll give you my playlist.
I will need hours and hours to listen to it because I can imagine it's long.
Yes.
She
has a lot on her discography, so
there you go. Yeah. She does actually. I will do my homework. I will.
I'll help you with that.
Thank you.
I'll be your assistant.
Mentor.
Your little tutor.
Lovely. Test me on my knowledge. Great. Well, I've got a couple more for you. So my next one is, do you have a hobby or anything that you do in your spare time?
I have too many hobbies, actually. So in my spare time, I do freelance photography, but I also do a lot of hobbyist photography, stuff that I don't get paid for and I'm not planning to get paid for. And it's just things that I want to take photos of. And lately I've been working on a series of Polaroids that's just a mix of things that seem lively and also things that seem mundane and kind of just what's the word for it? Moody, kind of this.
Okay.
Ominous. Yeah.
Very cool.
So that's something I've been working on. And apart from that, I think cooking. Cooking is one of my biggest hobbies of all time. I really love learning about food science. I feel like it's not a nerd thing. I feel like it helps you wing your cooking a lot better. You don't need to stick to a recipe if you understand a bit about food science, even just the basics, and then you just look at a recipe and then you can just wing it on your own. So it's really fun, and then you can kind of just tweak recipes how you like it to your own taste, and it's hard to go wrong when you understand the basics of food science. So I really like learning about that.
Yeah, I agree actually, because I often see my mum cook and she rarely ever has a recipe, if ever. And she's often just like adding things, and it's like really cool to see people do it in like a very intuitive way.
Yeah, and you're veg too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, love experimenting with vegetables because I hated vegetables as a kid. Didn't want to eat a single vegetable.
Yeah.
But now that I've grown older, I know that vegetables are better for me, so I'm trying to work them into my diet a bit more, but I'm trying to make them like as exciting as possible, you know, and not just like boiled broccoli or something like that. So that's something I really love doing too.
Agree. I feel like I need to get an air fryer.
Oh, I don't use air fryers.
I feel like that could be good, but also not good at the same time.
I feel like air fryers, they are good for specific types of people. And they can be good for like if you have a very, very busy week and you just,
That's true.
Yeah, and you barely really cook. For actual cooking and for cooking a ton of like bulk at one go, I don't feel like air fry is is going to do a good job at that. But for like reheating things really quickly, single serve stuff, I feel like air fry is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's just not for me though, because like it takes up a lot of countertop space. I just don't have that. I'd rather use my oven.
Yeah.
That's already there.
Yeah, I feel like it might make me lazy if I'm just like chuck it in the air fryer.
For real. I used to have an air fryer when I was in uni, and all I lived off of was like frozen nuggets and chips.
Oh no.
Yeah, because it was just there. It was easy.
Convenient,
It was really convenient. And I just go like, oh, well, I don't have to get Macca's.
Yeah.
I can just do it at home, and then that's all I eat. So.
Okay, maybe I won't do the air fryer thing. I'll leave that for now. Cool. Well, last question, which is like my favorite one. What is your favorite holiday?
Favorite holiday? Like, oh, you're talking about like just in general or like past holidays that I've had?
Like in general, like Christmas, Easter, New Year's.
Oh, this is hard. I love holiday season.
Yeah.
It's got to be between Lunar New Year, Christmas, and maybe not Easter. So Christmas or Lunar New Year, I feel like.
Ooh. Lunar New Year sounds really interesting just because I love different cultures and how they experience holidays.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
I grew up with like all of this Lunar New Year tradition thing. Apparently different countries have different traditions, and I didn't realize that until coming here, where I met other Asians that didn't have the same traditions that I did.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting to see. So I really love that.
Oh, that's very interesting. And I know that mooncake is a part of that tradition, is it?
It's part of the Mooncake Festival, but not Lunar New Year. That's I believe it's like autumn.
Oh, okay.
Festival, something like that.
Interesting, because I love mooncake. It's delicious.
You do?
Yeah.
That's like I rarely hear that. Like,
Really?
do you like the traditional mooncake?
It's got like, I think the red bean.
Oh yeah,
paste in it,
yeah.
which I really like. I love I'm not sure if it's like a pastry, but like it's just so nice. And
Is it the brown one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's got like a little
wow.
pattern. It's normally in like that circle.
Yeah, that's right.
shape.
Yeah.
And it's so cute.
Yeah.
It might have like a little fish on it or something.
Now there's a lot of like different kinds of mooncakes as well.
Yeah.
They have like snow skin mooncakes, which are like mochi exteriors instead of that brown crusty pastry.
Crusty.
It is pretty crusty.
In a good way.
Yeah,
In a good way.
Instead of that brown exterior, it's a mochi exterior, which is interesting. And then inside, it's some kind of ice cream or like cream or something like that, and it's frozen. Yeah.
I need that. That sounds like it's very up my alley.
Yeah.
Oh my
it's
God.
really, really good.
Okay. Okay, you've like put that in my head. I can't get it out of my head now. Okay. I'm making a mental note of that. That sounds really good. Oh, okay. Just had a moment. Awesome. Well, that's our little section done. So I think we can jump into our interview questions now, Marie. So my first one for you is, how would you define a goal, or what do goals mean to you?
I would define a goal as a calculated aspiration. I think that's pretty apt. It is a calculated aspiration because we aspire to do things all the time, but that remains an aspiration, just an aspiration, until you make a plan to do it. You set some goals, and that's calculated.
Yeah, no, I feel like that makes sense. Like you've got something you want to do, but the fact that you're making a goal out of it means there's a plan attached to it.
Yeah. So like, for example, I could aspire to get married. You know, it's an aspiration of mine, but it's not something I believe to be necessary in my life. It's just something that I aspire to have. And therefore I wouldn't like set a goal to like meet someone or date around with the intention to marry. And that's not like that. I feel like that's the distinction there.
Yeah.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, exactly. A goal is intentional.
Yeah, a goal's intentional for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, I feel like that's a good base point for us to work off. So what do you think is meant by the process of goal setting, and what would those characteristics look like?
I feel like the characteristics of goal setting, it requires a lot of consistency. First of all, requires consistency, again, intention, and tracking it is really important in goal setting. I feel like these are the three main things in the process of setting goals, and also just evaluating your life. So I just said 3, but really it's 4. Maybe it's even 5. Okay. I feel like in the process of goal setting, the most important thing is evaluating your life and how you want your future to be. That's the first step you've got to do in the process of goal setting. And then the next things come, which are tracking it, comparing it to your long-term aspirations and goals, deciding which goals are more important, because you might decide that some goals are not as important in the long run, and you might decide they are going to be soft goals. So I feel like those are the traits of goal setting.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like the fact that you said there could be 4, there could be 5, there could be 6 means that goal setting is very personalized.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
100%. I feel like a lot of people go about goal setting like what's the cookie cutter way to set goals.
Yeah.
But it's really important to like take a look at how it fits into your life and how you live your life, because the matter of fact is everyone operates differently.
Yeah. 100%.
And you've got to kind of know how you operate on your own to be able to set your goals. For example, I feel like a lot of people say, 3 or 4 goals or 5 even strong goals are like, that's a good baseline, that's a good start for New Year's resolutions or something like that. But I know that I get way too overwhelmed in setting 5 goals for myself, especially if they're strong. So I have to set like 1 or 2 strong goals, and the rest can be like maybe soft goals for me to work on, where if I could even complete 50% or 75% of it, I will still reward myself and pat myself on the back. And then the 1 or 2 will be at the top of my mind, will be my priority. And I also know that maybe not everyone works this way, but I know personally, I can't like fault myself for not completing the goal or not achieving it, because that will just make me spiral and feel really, really bad. And that's just going to be less productive in the long run for like next year or something like that. I'll be like, I don't want to do this anymore. What's the point in setting goals?
Yeah.
Whereas some people might be more motivated by the idea of like avoiding failure, you know, and that might urge them to do better.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't work like that. So it's going to be really different for everyone, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like we can look at SMART goals as like a base foundation for like how to build off your goals. But personally, I feel like SMART goals don't work for everyone. It can be like a good point of reference to be like, okay, this is what my goals should roughly look like.
Yeah.
But like you said, like everyone's different. Everyone's going to work in a different way. Some people like specific goals, like using SMART goals, and some people need something a bit more vague, something that they can shape and reshape.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you will agree with that.
Oh yeah, 100%. And some people change their minds a lot throughout the year. A lot goes on in a year. It sounds like a short time, but it's 12 months, and realistically anything can happen within those 12 months. Yeah. And things can change, big life changes happen, and your goals might shift around within that time, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And you've got to kind of reevaluate that. I feel like on a monthly basis. It's not a hard and fast rule. It's just as life goes on, you might have to do it, and that's okay.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess that's when we can maybe talk about like pre-planning.
Oh, yeah.
Do you believe in pre-planning for things at all? Or because I know there's pre-planning, there's planning, and then there's actually doing. Do you believe in all those kinds of stages?
I do believe in them. I do believe that they work and they're important, but I also do believe it's highly dependent on the individual. Yeah. Some people, again, just thrive better by doing things on the go, and that's their life. I personally, depending on what it is, like sometimes I've got to pre-plan. Like, for example, if I'm going on a trip, I find it very important to pre-plan these things. Or if, let's say, eventually at some point, if I'm going to start a family or get married, I'm going to have to pre-plan that.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to think about every possible scenario and figure out what is going to happen. And obviously that's not going to be like fail-proof, like something's bound to happen that I wouldn't have expected, but it makes me feel more safe.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, highly dependent on the individual. I feel like I hope that answers your question.
No, it definitely does. Like, there are some things in life that are that major that you need to pre-plan for, and you need to make sure you're ready for.
Do you do any pre-planning?
I don't really think of it as pre-planning. I just think of everything as planning. Because planning seems like it just naturally comes before. And then pre-planning is before the before.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is like weird. So I never think of it as pre-planning. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's like weird. Unless you've planned something and you're planning for that.
Yeah, but that's also counted as planning.
It's all planning. So let's just call it planning.
Well, like planning is fun.
Planning is fun.
Yeah, I do love like spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are great for planning of any sort.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just writing down everything that comes to your mind when planning or pre-planning, I feel like it's a really good way of tracking where your mind goes, because like you think about a million different things a day.
Yeah.
So I feel like documenting these really, really help. And I feel like I'm straying off topic, so like stop me at any point.
This is good, because we're talking about goals, and planning is important for goals, and now we're talking about some strategies. So we've talked about spreadsheets. I feel like there are so many different tools that you can use. If you're a very like visual person, you need to see your ideas down before you begin planning. So this can be your pre-planning, maybe.
This could.
This is the pre-planning. We're two non-experts trying to come up with a definition. Yeah.
Aren't we all?
Disclaimer.
Yeah.
We do not condone this 100%. These are just our ideas.
Ideas just to get you started on whatever.
Exactly.
And it's what's worked for me, I feel like.
Yeah, and again, like we said before, planning and goals is so individual that you have to find what works for you. And like people might suggest things that work for them, like spreadsheets, notes, journals, like all these different apps, but it's about finding what works for you, and it can be a trial and error process.
And I think it's also like really important not to beat yourself up if you don't end up completing a goal.
Oh yeah.
As long as you've tried. I think that's what's most important. And then it's always gonna, because it's never going, like, don't look at it as a failure, but more of like
a setback.
Like what you can learn from it. It's like you can learn a lesson from it, which is like, oh, last year's New Year's resolution wasn't that achievable or realistic. This year, I'm going to I'm gonna amend the way I set my goals.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's an opportunity to learn. So it's not a failure at all.
Yeah, and I think that like if you can't achieve a goal, it doesn't mean that the goal is not achievable. You just have to rework it.
Yeah,
and I really don't believe that there is a goal that you can't achieve. Like you can achieve all goals that you set. It's a matter of it that might just take a bit longer to achieve than what you expected, but you can always achieve anything that you sort of set your mind to, which is cringy, but like it's true.
It is true. And you just, I think you've just also got to have the will, which might be difficult, but you know, it is what it is. Because like in order to reach your goals, you've got to have the will to do it. If you don't have the will to do it, how are you going to reach your goals? So you've got to think about that too. So you've got to also find the motivation, I think, to try and reach for your goals.
Exactly. And I feel like through finding yourself, you can find your motivation a bit more and what drives you. But
and it like, to be frank, it is exhausting. It is very exhausting to do this, but it is well worth it in the long run. And along the way, you just learn how to do life better, and along the way it gets easier as you go, so you learn a lot from it. And exhausting's not bad.
Yeah, exactly. Unless it's burning you out.
Yeah, in which case then maybe go on a little break or something.
Yeah, and then in that case exhausting is bad.
Yeah.
So
there's good exhausting and there's bad exhausting.
Exactly.
And you've got to like figure out which you are.
And what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, linking back to New Year's, what are your thoughts on New Year's resolutions?
I feel, well, I used to grow up thinking New Year's resolutions are bogus because time is a social construct.
Yeah.
Like, set resolutions and goals anytime you want. You can do it. But as I grow older and like a little less cynical, I'm like, okay, to be fair, it is, yes, it might be a social construct. It might be a psychological thing. It might be all made up in our heads. However, it doesn't make it any less real. There's a clear break that the new year offers us.
Yeah.
It separates, it very clearly separates the new year from the rest of the past 12 months. And it might be all in our heads. It might be a human, like, made up thing. But it is what it is. It's a good opportunity to reevaluate your life. And I feel like if you think it's a good time for that spring cleaning of your mind, the spring cleaning of your goals, then do it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Marie Kondo your life.
Yeah, Marie Kondo your life.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I feel like people call it New Year's resolutions for like a reason, because like you said, you've got that holiday period and you've actually been given time, you've been given a break. And it's the perfect time to actually do something with that.
Yeah, for sure. And the break definitely gives you a chance to, it gives you more room to step out of like that work mode that you're in all year round and really get a chance to think a little deeper into what you want in your life and all of your short-term, long-term goals.
Yeah.
So I think it is really important if you want to set goals. Yeah. And if you don't feel like setting goals for the new year, if you don't feel like you're quite ready for it, then that's fine to, do it whenever you want. But if New Year's is a good time for you, go ahead and do it, and like don't wait on it,
Yeah, exactly. And like, do you feel like we always have to wait until the New Year's time?
I don't believe so. I feel like it can be good to think about the New Year's resolutions a few months in advance, even start thinking about like soft goals or like vague ideas of what you want for your goals, because then you have like a while to really sit on it and think about what you want, and then maybe you can decide to act on them after the New Year's, like for the next year, you know. And I think that also it eradicates any chance of you making any like impulsive goals.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, you know. So I think it's good to think about it in advance and then act on it for the new year.
Exactly. And that's where I was going to say, that's why I feel like sometimes I disagree with this whole concept of New Year's resolutions, because it's often something people will come up 30 seconds before it hits midnight. They're like, oh, New Year's resolution, this is what it's going to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's always the same things. It's always like, I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to save up more. I'm going to save this outlandish amount. But no, it's got to be something realistic.
Exactly.
And like, it can be like those less important soft goals can be like, I'm going to go for more walks.
Yeah.
That's a bit more like reasonable, rather than I'm going to hit the gym every single day when I haven't the past year at all.
Yeah.
You know,
don't even have a gym membership.
That's a huge commitment. That's a huge thing to say that you're going to do. It's a huge major life change, lifestyle change. So that's something to take into account.
Exactly. And also the fact that habits take, I believe it's like 60 or 90 days or something to actually develop. It's like a pretty extended period of time, and you're essentially telling yourself you'll wake up one morning and you'll go do something every day. Yeah. Which you'll either burn out, I feel like, or you'll lose the motivation because it doesn't come from a place of like genuine want to do that. More just like impulse or adrenaline in the moment.
Yeah, and you're going to get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So that's not going to work out in the long run. It's more important to start small with these major lifestyle changes, I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you think then this affects and improves our productivity for the year coming?
I feel like, so with setting smaller goals, smaller, more achievable goals, and like reevaluating them and evaluating yourself and your productivity with it every month or so can help increase productivity, because you get motivated by like, oh, I actually managed to complete these goals. And they might be small, but you did it. Whereas like if you set outlandish goals and like unachievable goals, and let's say they are like you achieved more than what like a smaller soft goal or something like that, you still wouldn't feel that sense of achievement or accomplishment, because you ultimately have failed. And you can try and like reframe that mindset, but it's like, how do you, like, it's hard to measure. You're going to feel some sort of like lack of motivation from it, and then that's gonna like make you really, for lack of better word, upset. And then not as motivated. So I feel like that's more like apart from the long-term goal, like not the long-term goal, so 1 year's short-term goal, but shorter term, month by month, or even week by week, if you have the time to do that, can be really helpful in productivity. Because like, look at you go, girl, like you did it. Yeah, even just like saving $1 a day or something like that, if you haven't been doing that, you know.
Exactly. And I feel like New Year's resolutions can be good because you can really set yourself up for a goal that you can do across the entire year coming up. It doesn't have to be something that you just do in January. Like, it can be something you can work towards, make it more realistic, and give yourself, maybe that's like your new hobby for the next year.
Yeah, for sure. And you can totally gamify it if you want.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have any ideas off the top of my head, but like, you know, there are tons of apps now that help with like goal setting, habit tracking, or like or finance planning or something like that feel like games. Yeah. So that's something to like think about and explore if you want to gamify something.
Exactly. Like, for example, if your goal is to be less distracted while you do your work, while you work from home. There is this app, I believe, on your laptop or like a browser screen or something, where it's this plant, and if you like change tabs, or if you go outside of the like window you're supposed to be working on, your plant dies. Yeah.
Oh, poor plant.
I know. So the motivation is to keep your plant alive.
Oh, so, that sounds fun, actually.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because plants are cute. We don't want to kill them. So it's like...
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie though. I feel like I might end up going on my phone instead. Or like one of my other devices.
think that actually, I honestly don't know the logistics to that one. I don't know if it's still viable.
But it is a good like try. It's a good attempt. And also like you could probably just leave your phone outside somewhere. Like unreachable, or like you're not gonna want to leave your study room. So you just like leave your phone in your bedroom or something like that, set and forget. Yeah. That kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Or like give your phone to someone else and be like, hey, don't give this to me until I'm done.
Yeah, I don't live with someone else, or like the only other cats. I don't know if that's a good idea. I feel like he might do some undesirable stuff to it. He's always like messing my stuff up.
Oh, so, then don't give it to the cat. Don't give phones to your cats.
Yeah. I think I'll just hide it somewhere and forget.
That's a good idea. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
We've talked about some of these like challenges that we might come across. Not cat specific, but what are some of the other challenges you think might arise when we're planning and implementing New Year's goals or resolutions?
I feel like one of the biggest challenges, if you aren't attuned with yourself and your wants and your needs, is figuring out what you want or what you need and figuring out what's a want and what's a need. It's hard to distinguish the two if you haven't done enough introspection. So that's one of the biggest challenges. And the other one is also trying to ascertain what's realistic and what's achievable, because it's all relative and it's all pretty subjective to yourself. Someone else might feel like it's achievable, but you, with whatever like weight you have in your life, it might not be achievable for you. And you've got to like kind of be aware of that. You've got to be aware of what you have going on in your life, and you can't shortchange yourself. You can't be like, well, other people have so many other things in their lives and they can definitely do this, so I've got to do it too. Because everyone has different mental capacities. So you've got to like be really aware of that. I think that's really important. Self-awareness, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's the biggest challenge, because it's not just about like being aware of your faults. It's being aware of how good you're at certain things too. And it's giving yourself credit where credit is due. And not comparing yourself to other people.
Definitely.
And that's the hardest thing, I feel like.
Yeah, and to like add on to that, I feel like, we're talking about creating a roadmap for the new year, but I feel like it shouldn't be the be all and end all, like this goal that you're trying to set, or the multiple goals you're trying to set. It shouldn't be like what everything is riding on. Like, I need to accomplish this goal so I can be happy. It's more like, let me set a goal that will contribute towards the person I want to be. And even if you don't complete the goal, you still made progress. And you've got to like, you have to pat yourself on the back for that. You have to recognize that that's still progress. Exactly.
And that's better than not having done anything at all.
Make your goal your little side quest. Don't make it your entire life.
Exactly.
We love side quests.
We love side quests.
Exactly. It's not like what we're focusing on because you've got so much going on in your life. It's just like this little thing that you can do. You've got the time and the space. You've got an entire year. It could be 2 years. It could be the rest of your life. But you've got time.
And a little reward at the end of it. At the end of the side quest, even if you've only completed half of it. Buy yourself that, like, I don't know, record player that you've been wanting, like something not too expensive, not to like not just a coffee, like something that's equivalent to the work that you've done for the year. And
exactly.
I feel like that would be really good motivation.
Yeah. And let someone know, someone you trust, someone you feel comfortable with, know what you're working on so that they can also help recognize your good achievements, because we're so good at just being critics of ourselves and not, like you said, giving credit where credit is due. So if you let someone else know, they'll be able to support you. You'll be able to have guidance as well, especially if the goal you're working on is something they're working on too. Buddy up, or like if they've accomplished a similar goal, they can be your little mentor.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we've talked a bit about different stages of the journey, like coming up with our goals, what we do when we actually get to the new year, and even long term. So how do we begin to kickstart this plan and this journey? What are some actionable strategies you think we could use?
I think, like I said before, the first step, self-reflection. Actionable strategy-wise, like to turn it into something that's actionable, maybe daily journaling. And if you don't have time to journal daily, which is fair enough, maybe try weekly. And it doesn't even have to be like intense and deep, you know, just write about what you've been daydreaming about or something like that. Maybe you can document what you've been daydreaming about, and then you'll find something in your subconscious or something like that you know, you can refer back to.
Exactly.
Because like, honestly, we don't really remember every single thing we think about throughout the day. So
100%.
like even just writing something like that, documenting it and then referring back to it can help a lot, and also figure out where you are at emotionally. And it doesn't have to be like serious, like sit down with a bullet journal and like do it every day, or like you failed at something. Just write something in your notes. It can be a sentence or two. It can be just like writing about how you feel. It can be just a couple of words. It's fine. But that's just something that you can do to get yourself a bit more aware of where you are at in life. I think.
Yeah.
And second thing, I feel like this doesn't have to go in order, but with the introspection, I feel like having some alone time is really important.
Yeah.
And talking to yourself. I do this thing where I do video diaries and I just talk about my day. Like, and yes, like having someone else there to like be a sounding board can be really helpful. But sometimes you kind of need to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
So that's really important.
Definitely.
I don't know why I numbered these, because I don't feel like there's really an order to it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I think as far as actionable steps go, I feel like that's the main one.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And like on the line of daydreaming, just like before Marie was daydreaming about having a resolutions mentor, it comes to you at random points. So sometimes having a journal, or even if you want to type it out, or I don't know, voice memo it, like keep it somewhere. And I feel like that's the way you kickstart it, by doing that introspection and that thinking, and that's what will sort of bring about that goal. Like what's something that you want to work on. Through your journaling, you might be like, oh, wow, like here's a gap. I want to work on this. And through doing some reflection, I figured that out.
Yeah. And like speaking about the little daydream side thing that I just did with like, oh, I wish I had a mentor. That's exactly like what I'm talking about. I should write that down. Like maybe I do want a mentor. Yeah. I just like, I thought about it like vaguely for a while. I just didn't write it down, if I'm being honest. But now that you mention it, I do want a mentor for like photography and stuff like that. So maybe that's something that I can work on, like finding a mentor in the next year.
Exactly. Like sometimes we joke about things when we're talking with our friends and we're like, oh, how funny would this be? But like if we take a moment to actually realize what we just said, like it came from a place of curiosity. And curiosity doesn't have to be just like, oh, that was for fun. I don't have to follow through with that. That can be like, oh, maybe this will lead somewhere.
Yeah. I think it's also really important to like not hold yourself to whatever everyone else is doing. Because I don't know anyone like no one that I know has a mentor, has like gone out to find a mentor.
Yeah.
So it's just never been in like my sphere of thinking. It's never been like, oh, that's something normal to do. I know how to do that. I don't know how to do it, but you know what? I want to do it. So like I'm going to figure out how to do that.
Yeah. And there's so many different ways you can do things, and like journaling, it's underrated, but it's basic. It doesn't have to be journaling. You can figure out your own way to do it. There's so many different ways. You can talk to yourself. You can find someone to talk to. I'm sure there's different like online tools and resources.
Yeah, or even like art therapy can be a form of journaling.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like there's so many different things that we can use. And on the lines of strategies, I'd like to jump into our practices and habits debrief.
Oh.
So you're very familiar
My
with this.
favorite section.
Your favorite section, yes. So we'll extrapolate a bit more on these strategies, and I'd like to ask what practice do you use to enhance your goal setting?
I do a lot of self-reflection.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've iterated this too many times almost during the episode, but truly I can't emphasize enough how important self-reflection is. I feel like it's so underrated. A lot of people, like especially when you first start, it's really difficult to overcome that like anxiety of like, oh, this is uncomfortable. I don't want to admit that I feel a certain way or that I want a certain thing in life, because it's like kind of stepping out of your comfort zone, right? Sometimes people like to ignore the emotions. Sometimes you might have unwanted emotions, things like envy or whatever it is, but you kind of have to recognize that it's human to go through all these things and kind of address it and acknowledge all of it. And I feel like it just makes you a bit more self-aware, and then eventually figure out what you want in life. And figuring yourself out is so important, and it's so rewarding. It's very gratifying to like figure out who you are as a person and not like just go along with whatever everyone else is doing. So I feel like I've rambled a bit too much about that, but that's a practice that I really like to do, reflect daily. And again, it's not something that I think you have to, like, if you don't want to do it, you can't force yourself to do it. But whenever you want to do it, whenever you feel like thinking about it, sit down and like write it out, whatever you're thinking. And eventually it forms into a habit.
Like we were talking about, exactly. And like you said, I feel like with journaling, some people work well with being like, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to journal right now. But some people, would you agree, are like, I'm going to journal when I feel like it.
Absolutely. And one of those people that journals whenever I feel like it, because I feel like telling myself I have to do this every single day just puts me off even more. And that's how some people might operate as well. And I just get this like rebellion thing, right? It's like, especially if I say I'm gonna do this every single day and then I don't do it, and then I get upset at myself. So I can't do that to myself. I'll just do it whenever I want, and it just so happens that I do it quite often, like at least once a week.
Exactly.
So that's good for me.
It's good for you. No, that sounds really great. And do you find that there are any challenges to this practice that you do?
Definitely. Lots of challenges. Finding the time is a huge struggle, especially when you're busy with work and then a million different hobbies. It's difficult to find the time. But then if you start thinking of it as like something that you want to do so that you feel better. It makes it a bit easier and less like a chore, you know? So I think that's how you can overcome that challenge. And also thinking about it like one of your hobbies might help.
Very important.
So it's all about mindset, really. And then another challenge I feel like is having enough courage to admit when you have emotions that you don't want. necessarily. Like maybe they might be really undesirable, like I said before, like anger. Maybe you have anger. No one likes to be angry.
Yeah.
Or maybe some people do. But like I don't like to be angry. So I don't like to admit it. But like you've gotta have the courage to admit that you're angry before you can move on with it. And like maybe you don't wanna admit that you want something in life. For example, some people don't want to admit that they want marriage.
Yeah.
But you have to have the courage to admit when you want something, or you're never going to be able to work towards that. So yeah, I think those are the biggest challenges, I feel like.
Yeah, that inner Reloscope host in you is coming out with the marriage examples.
I hear a lot about marriage in Reloscope. Hear a lot about it. Do I want marriage?
The big question.
That is a big question. Not in the next 5 years.
Yeah. Well, stay tuned for that Reloscope episode.
Stay tuned.
That will be when I come on your show. We'll talk about marriage.
You about that.
Yes, the big questions. Awesome. And how do you feel like this practice of like self-reflection has helped improve your productivity?
I think that self-reflection has helped me unwind a lot and kind of let loose on a lot of emotions. Before I started like doing this practice of reflecting on myself and reflecting on my goals and emotions and everything like that, I felt like I was always on edge because I didn't know what was happening with me. I didn't know what was setting me off. And then that like made me really anxious at work, and then it made me think about so many things and spiral a lot when during work, and then it really affected my performance. And that may be something that a lot of people might perform well at work anyway without the self-reflection, but I think that has helped the process a lot. It has made it a lot easier to be productive. Because I feel like I am performing relatively well still, like about the same, but it has made me like look forward to work a lot more. It has made me feel a lot more like in the zone when I'm at work, because outside of work, I'm realizing things and I'm getting my emotions out, and I don't have to do that during work. I don't have to like think about it all the time during work anymore. I get it out aside from all that work time, you know? And then I have all that time to focus on what I need to focus on. Yeah.
That's really good. I feel like that in itself is like a really great accomplishment, because a lot of people bring their personal life into work, and it can really impact their ability to be focused and be centered and totally concentrate on what they're doing.
Yeah. And it's totally like, I feel like it's a human experience thing. Like no one's going to get it right from the start. Every one of us has brought our like personal lives, or let our personal lives like affect our schoolwork or our like work. And that's okay. Like it's okay to mess up. It's okay to like accidentally bring your personal life into work. It's part of the experience, but you know, trying to move forward with it is what counts.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you for listening to me.
Yeah, of course. Now, as you know, we've got our open mic section.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Now, I've decided to hijack it a bit.
Okay.
And I thought that we could talk about your New Year's resolutions.
My New Year's resolutions.
Your thoughts around them, if you've thought of it, where are you going with it? Are you going to have one?
Yes, I will be having a couple of hard resolutions. It sounds a bit boring, but I need to go to Italy in 2025 because of my best friend's wedding. So financial goals there to set myself up for being able to go to Italy for my friend's wedding. So I'm hoping to save at least like 1,000 a month, which sounds ridiculous, but it's going to be manageable, definitely for sure. Definitely for sure.
Definitely for sure. She's that sure. That is definitely for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be achievable. And yeah, I've done the numbers. It's gonna be really manageable. So I am excited for that.
Nice.
I don't think I've ever like aimed to save $1,000 a month. It's always been like 700 or something like that, which is like not too little, not too much. I feel like that's modest, right?
Yeah.
But I've also been impulse purchasing a lot my entire life, which is why it's like, yeah. So I'm going to like hold back on the impulse spending a little bit.
Yeah.
And hopefully those two are the most important. And the soft goals, I hope to get my learners.
Oh, cute.
Finally.
Yeah.
Because I tried to do it like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I freaked out because I didn't get full marks on the learner's practice test.
Oh.
And I, being the perfectionist I am, I was like, I can't do it until I get full marks. You know,
I totally get that.
I just didn't take it because I was like, I got like 85% or 90% or something like that. But what if during the real one, I get one question wrong? And then I'll have to retake it. So that's too much pressure. I can't do it.
Fair enough.
But this time around, I'm just going to go for it.
Got this.
Yeah. And I have decided to get a friend to sit there with me and make me do it.
No, that's so fair.
Because I need the emotional support.
You definitely do. I remember I would have lacked some emotional support when I did mine.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely good that you're planning this.
So yeah, I think that's another piece of advice probably is like if you find it difficult to go and do something yourself, get a friend to sit down with you for moral support because that's really helpful.
A little accountability buddy.
Yeah.
Well, those sound like cute little goals you've got for yourself, and you seem like you've pre-planned.
I have
done some pre-planning.
Yeah, I did. I looked up all of the flight ticket prices, which actually aren't available
at this
yet,
point in time. Yeah,
but I looked at other months, like similar traffic periods.
Yeah.
To get a gauge of how much it'd be, and then I kind of like added my rent for the whole month on top of that and an extra like month of rent just in case. And that's also because like I've got to take time off work. Yeah. So I've got to be prepared for like I'm not going to have any income there. And then I've also got to send my cat to someone's place, like pet boarding or something like that. So that's a lot to take into account. So I've done the numbers, ran it through a spreadsheet, did the pre-planning. I think that's counted as pre-planning.
That is pre-planning, yeah.
There we go.
See, this is what happens when you pre-plan, guys. So maybe it does exist.
Yeah. So I can be sure that with that time frame of like $1,000 a month, I can get there plus more. And again, that $1,000 a month idea, it's going to set me up to have enough room to where if I only am able to achieve like 75% of that goal, I still have enough to do my thing.
Yeah, safety net.
Yeah, safety net.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and coming on the show and talking about all this.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really fun.
Of course.
You should come on Reloscope sometime.
I would love to come on Reloscope. I don't know if anyone knows this, but Reloscope is my favorite podcast. So I really want to be a guest on Reloscope so bad.
Amazing. We'll talk.
We'll talk. Yeah. It's in the works. Pre-planning. There we go. Well, again, thank you so much, Marie.
You're welcome.
And yeah, for everyone else listening, don't forget to check out Marie's podcast, which are Reloscope and the Personal Science Atlas. Am I correct?
Oh, it's Self-Improvement Atlas.
Self-Improvement Atlas. You can tell that I don't listen to that one. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. All Marie's details are in the description below. But Happy New Year, everyone, and we'll see you guys next time. You have been listening to Work in Progress, the Personal Productivity Science Insights podcast produced by the Life Management Science Labs. Listen to episodes from LMSL's 10 Life Management Perspectives on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or other podcasting apps on your smartphone. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel as it helps other people find it and us grow to bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website pp.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Joanna. Thanks for tuning in.